Sharia in the West is often associated with an archaic legal system that is all about social punishments, such as cutting the hand of the thief or stoning the adulterer. And it is partly a fear of this idea of Sharia that is causing there to be all these anti-Sharia bills being passed in America, for example. But in reality, the Sharia is a pathway, and that's what it means in the Arabic language. And in its sacred context, it means a pathway to the water well, which means that it's this inexhaustible source of God's knowledge and wisdom. It's God's ethical and moral vision for how the human being should live here on earth. What's interesting about the Sharia is that it is based in the two constitutional sources of the Quran and the prophetic way, which is the Sunnah. But the Sharia is not contained in any one book. Rather, there's this intellectual project that's known as fiqh, which is fallible human understanding, that there are certain specialists and scholars of that tradition who engage constantly in this question of what does it mean to live in accordance with the will of God. And they're constantly interpreting this question in every single different age and in every single different culture. One of the things that the scholars do agree on is that there are certain aspects of the Sharia that are fixed. For example, praying 5 times a day, or the prohibition of eating pork, unless there's some sort of exceptional circumstance. But then there's other aspects of the Sharia that are malleable and changing and constantly by their very nature evolving, such as the technical rules of business transaction or diplomacy between nations. Here, the context of which Muslims are living in matters a great deal. One of the things that scholars also agree on is this idea that the Sharia is built on 6 major core values, and that these values should not only be preserved, but they should be enhanced. And these are the preservation and enhancement of life itself, the mind and intellect, religion, property and wealth, family and lineage, and human dignity. That these 6 have to be preserved in order for a Muslim society to flourish. So when it comes to the penal codes, these are social punishments for social sins and crimes. But one of the things to understand is that they are there to deter people from committing anything that would violate those 6 values. And in a proper, sophisticated Islamic legal system with a judge and lawyers, the goal is to find leniency. The goal is mercy. The goal is not to burden people with punishments. And there's also a very high bar that's set for convicting people of any sort of guilt. What's interesting is that other religions also have an ethical and legal system. So for example, in Judaism, you have the halakha. In Catholicism, you have the canon law. So Sharia is not unique at all to the Islamic faith. The most important thing to remember about Sharia is that it is not a tradition or it is not a code that is found in some sort of book that was written a long time ago in history. But rather, Sharia is a lived tradition that Muslims grapple with every single day and that they seek to live by, and that they're constantly asking this question of what does it mean to live according to the will of God.